Hey, everybody. I'm just gonna. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to see you guys again. Well, you guys see me and I don't see you, but I see you. I see you in my heart. In my heart. Anyway, I'm actually very excited to come to you today. This is a lot of fun because I had an moment last night, which means I am running on very little sleep. So my lower back is hurting, very little sleep because I was very excited and I stayed up. As a matter of fact, I have a tendency because of my shoulder. You guys know that sometimes a lot of times I sleep in my recliner, but I don't always. And so last night, unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize my husband had sent me a message saying, "Hey, are you going to sleep in the recliner tonight?" And I wasn't, but by the time I got to the room, he was asleep, snoring with the dog like this. So this is my husband and this is my dog on my side of the bed. And I'm thinking, well, so much for me getting any room in the bed. So I guess I'm sleeping in the recliner because I had stayed up so late. And the whole reason is because I'd stayed up so late because I had this epiphany. So I had two, and then I had another one today. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Okay. Because I had two of them. So let's start with the one I had today and we'll backtrack. How's that? Mm-hmm. All right. So I don't know. It was on the Disney Channel, and it was about a couple of brothers that lived in a hotel, and so they grew up with all these kids in this hotel, and the heiress of the hotel was not exactly the brightest person, and the lady who actually played her is brilliant. I mean, she's a very smart and gorgeous woman. Now a woman, back then was a teenager. But anyway, so she would call the gear shift. I remember the episode about driving because it cracks me up. The Prindle, right? The PRLND, and I've always, the reason why I've never forgotten it, and I thought it was so funny, was because I always tell everybody, I grew up in Southern California and I grew up and I learned to drive on an automatic. So I have no clue how to drive. I mean, I have a clue. I kind of have a concept of how to drive a clutch, but I've never, or, a manual, but I've never really done it. And so it always stuck with me because I always tell everybody, look, P is for park, D is for drive, R is for reverse, N is for neutral, and I really don't know what it does. And I know it has numbers, and I have no clues what those do because I've never used them and never needed to. There you go. And of course, most of the guys just groan, and all the girls usually laugh. So anyway, the Prindle, so the gear shift. I know what it's called, but I call it the gear shift. Do you do that? Do you and your family have like things that you have other names for? It's wrong. That's not the name of it. Like my oldest could never say plunger. She called it a flugger. So anytime that we needed a plunger, it was the flugger, and it still is. Matter of fact, she now has her own apartment, and we needed a plunger. And I'm like, "Hey, honey, do you know what the flugger is?" And she's like, "No, we don't have one yet." And I had to go out and buy her one. So anyway, it was, long story short, too late. I know. That's the thing. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk to you about was this Prindle, right? The gear shift. I had, I would say maybe, so last year we don't count. And then the year before that, my daughter was still living. So I'm saying my youngest was still living. So I'm saying maybe 2-3 years ago, I had made, has it been that long? Oh my gosh. And I think it might even be on one of my videos. I think it's definitely posted in Facebook. But anyway, I'll have to go back and look. I had crocheted a wheel cover for my steering wheel and for my Prindle, because here in Oregon, I have a car. I have a black car. So in the summer, that thing gets blistered, right? And that happens anywhere in California too. Anywhere you have sunlight on black, it sucks when it gets really hot. Okay. So for those 5 days that it goes to 90 or above, I know. yeah, that thing gets really hot. And then in the winter, which is the other 9 months of the year, it's really cold, like really cold in there. So holding onto the steering wheel or holding onto the brindle is not a pleasant thing. So I thought, hey, I've got all this great yarn, beautiful stuff, make covers, right? Mhm. So I did. And I did one for the steering wheel and I did one for the brindle to match. Well, today I'm sitting in the car. Like I said, I had to take my daddy to the doctor's office and I had to run a couple of errands. And I stoplight, look down, and I see the brindle. And this is what it currently looks like. Okay. And this is silk. So for those of you who haven't heard of darn good yarn. I had it 2 seconds ago. Darn good yarn. Darn good yarn is a fair trade company that works with women in India. And what this actually is sari material that was shredded up and then created into yarn. And it's beautiful. But as you can see, I was looking at it, I'm like, gosh, it looks awfully muted. I could remember the time where it looked much more, much brighter, much more intense, much more jewel tone. Like, or was it always like that? Because after a time, you don't think about it. So what I did is I took it off. I'm sitting in, it was a long light. And look what I found underneath. Now, isn't that's what it originally looked like? So see the reds and the blues and the purples and the pinks. And I mean, isn't that just gorgeous? So I thought, oh my gosh, how sad, that it's been burnt. So we'll move on to that part. But I thought, oh, leave it like this, tuck the end in on the other side, and here we go. We have a pretty brindle. But I'm going to have to cut off my steering wheel cover and resew it on, turn it inside out and resew it on because the other side's going to be like this again. So I'll be able to extend the life of my creation. And then, I mean, I could always make another one. I mean, there's nothing to say I can't do that. But hey, and that's gorgeous. Why waste it? I can just tuck in the ends and turn it inside out and do that. So that came with the thought of what sunlight does to natural fibers. So we're coming into that very warm season, right? Summer. And the sunlight gets stronger. And so when you're thinking of making things, and clothes aren't quite such a big deal because you're in and out of cars, you're in and out of buildings. So it's not that big of a deal. But when you're thinking of doing something like a blanket that covers the back of your couch because it gets exposed to sunlight a lot, that you want to take a look at. You want to actually think because natural fibers will bleach out just like you saw with the brindle, right? Oh yeah, I could do that. See, this would be really cool. So you could see the effect of what it looks. I'll move that little string. How's that? Let's do this. How's that? So you could see, I mean, this is sun bleached and this is original. So you can see the intensity of the color. I mean, you can see the yellow and yellow. See the intensity of the color, how that changed, the purples. I mean, you can really tell how that changed. So when you're doing that, you want to take that into consideration. Acrylics, artificial yarns will hold up better than natural yarns with natural dyes. Okay, they just will. So take that into account when you're thinking of that. If you're thinking about making a play blanket for your grandkids, your nephews, nieces, whatever, or a picnic blanket that is going to be sitting out in the sun for extended periods of time over a long period of time because you're going to be using it a lot, you might want to take that into consideration. And depending upon where that blanket is going to be laying, so is it sand? Is it grass? Is it dirt? Whatever that is, wherever you're going to be sitting it, understand that there's also the problem with it getting stained, and not even stained from food. Right? It's stained like grass will stain. It'll stain it green, especially if it's been freshly mowed. It will stain. So thinking on those terms, those are things that you may want to take into consideration when you're going to make your creations. And I know it's hard. I know, because I'm stubborn and I do the same thing. I'm like, oh no, it has to be this yarn because I love this color and the feel. And then Yeah, you have to take extra care. And let's be honest, if you have to take too much care of something just so you can use it, chances are you're not going to use it, right? Because it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something you can throw into the back of the SUV or the minivan or the trunk, you know. So you may want to consider using acrylic yarns if you haven't used them in the past. You know, that'd be a good alternative to using natural fibers. Okay. And let's face it, if it's not going to be sitting on your skin, what's the problem with it all with the acrylics? You know, it'll work great. I mean, don't, and I'm not knocking acrylics, okay, because I use it a lot. I wear it. Different brands and different types of yarn, they all feel different. So that's something to take into consideration. All right, so there's that, right? That was Epiphany today that I wanted to share with you. And then Epiphany last night into today, because it was the wee hours of the morning that I had this epiphany. So what happened was, and I'm going to see there, here it starts. So here's this hook, and okay, here we go. So this right here, my friends, is, and as you can tell, I already started taking it apart and I started experimenting. So what happened is that I was creating this cowl, and I saw these colors, and these are from Jimmy Bean wools. Okay, so these are merino, and I just loved this. So this reminds me of cream, right? Like you know, cranberries and cream, right? The cream. And this reminds me of cranberries. And I just love the, and so you can see here, this is a good example of the variation in the color. See how that just varies from a light to a dark and back and again. So I started with this idea, and I had seen this. This is actually a modification, right? This right here is a modification to the houndstooth um, stitch. And I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. But it wasn't giving me, and I knew the yarn itself gave me the idea or the concept. Actually, the yarn is the one that spoke to me, because this is what I was looking at. See how it does this it just reminds me of cranberries. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is cranberries and cream. So I have to call whatever I create with this yarn combination cranberries and cream. And I had that cranberries stuck in my head. And so when I was doing this, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I thought, well, it was getting too boring, so we're going to modify it. So as you can see, I started doing some modifications as far as different styles and whatnot. And I write everything down. So this is called designing, right? So you grab a hook, you grab some yarn, you grab a concept, and you start writing, right? As you go along, which I'll be honest with you, there's a tad bit of an annoyance there, because I'm kind of the kind of person that just changes things on the fly. And it's like, oh no, now I gotta write it down. What did I do? So you always want to make sure it's right there. I like to use erasable pens, because I will transfer it later to something more permanent, or pencil, one or the other. I don't like using straight up pens, because I do a lot of crossing out, rewriting, you know, that kind of thing. I like to be able to adjust and change. So that's what I use. Everybody's different. Just understand that if you do use erasable pens, if it gets hot or it gets wet, it will disappear. It just freaking disappeared. And if you know Jeff Dunham, Peanut says that anyway in one of his jokes. I was channeling Peanut. Anyway, so if you're going to use erasable pens, understand that that can happen. So if you don't transfer it over to something more permanent, it's gone. It will be lost. It will not be kept for posterity. So it's good for something that is temporary. It's good for something that you're constantly changing, but not for something that you want to save into posterity. And because those design sheets and whatnot, I'm changing and adjusting and whatnot when I'm first creating it, I don't worry about that part because I will later on type it up and keep it nice and nice, give it a right format. Oh, and the wording, and this is capitalized. And all of a sudden I don't capitalize. And then I just change the way I say something. That's what editors are for, because then they have to edit it. So anyway, this is the beginning of the process. Lo and behold, last night I was just very frustrated. As you can see, this has actually been in the works since early December. This should have been way done by now, but I was not feeling it. I was not feeling the inspiration. I was not feeling the love. I did have it sitting in timeout. I do have a timeout corner. It's a rather large one. And projects go into timeout for various reasons. Like, I'm not feeling it. The pattern isn't working. The yarn isn't working. The hook is annoying me. I found something else that got my attention. Squirrel. So, yeah, it was in timeout for a long time. I picked it up again because I really need to finish it. And I just couldn't. And so I decided that I was going to do a little bit of searching. Well, lo and behold, I came across this stitch, and it's this right here, and it's called this one right here, these bobbles. And this is called the bead stitch. And as you can see, I was just experimenting. So this is the bead stitch. Love it. There's my berries. So now it's modifying this pattern. So I will be taking it all apart. When I told my husband this morning, he's like, you look at the dog. He goes, your mommy's nuts. Yes, mommy is nuts. I am going to be taking it all apart all over again and starting over with this new pattern concept that I have. And I think it's going to be a lot more fun. I'm very excited about it now. And I don't know if I'm going to still use the houndstooth pattern even as a variant. I think I'm going to, I was thinking of something else. So anyway, this will be coming up. I will have this pattern available once I finish creating it. And now that I'm excited, it actually will happen. I still have that seaside blanket that I'm working on. Another one of those. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. So we'll have to see. But anyway, that was what I wanted to bring to you. So if you've ever thought about designing, don't let it, what would you say? How would I say it? Don't let it intimidate you. Really, it's like crocheting. Like, what do I always say about crocheting? It's just loops on a hook. Okay. It's just loops on a hook. So if it's just loops on a hook, then it's just words on a page. And you're just translating those loops on a hook to words on a page. And there are so many ways to go about doing it. For your first few ones, you may want to actually look at somebody else. So if there is a pattern writer that you like, that you feel very comfortable reading their patterns, how do they write their patterns? How do they explain different stitches? Emulate that. And you can get your own rhythm to do that. So there's a lot of ways of doing that. So don't discount that and say, oh no, I can't design anything, or I'm not creative. Every time you make a variant to a pattern, right? Whenever you change a pattern in some way, you are redesigning it to an extent. Okay. So don't sell yourself short. Do not. I've had lots of people go, oh, well, I'm just a beginning crocheter. No, you're a crocheter, period. The minute you do a single crochet or a chain, you are a crocheter. Don't give yourself that negative talk. Don't have time for it. You got more crocheting to do. It's a lot of fun. You know it. I know it. But share it with the world. So with that said, don't let designs go unnoticed. If you think about or you see something, you're like, I could translate that into a crochet design. Go for it. And the reason I say that is because last night, prior to going to the yarn room, I was on some of my news feeds, and there was some pictures of a mosaic that was found from 1,500 years ago or something like that. And I'm like, hey, I think I can translate that mosaic design into crochet. And I may just do that. I'm kind of sort of excited about that one too. So this is my problem. I come up with all of these ideas and I don't have enough time to do them all. I want to do every single one of them, right? I want to just go for it, but it's you only have so many days in or so many hours in your day and only so many days in your week. And you as you guys know, my hand falls asleep, my shoulder's been hurting, so I have to kind of stretch it and all of that stuff, so it takes me a little more time. But don't let it stop you. You know what? So your hand falls asleep. Okay, so you stretch it out, let it come back, and then you start over again, right? Your shoulder starts to hurt. Okay, readjust, do some, stretching, readjust, and come back to it, or give it a break and then come back. But don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. This is such an amazing art form. And there are not that many of us. There's a lot of us, but there's not that many of us. Oh, and one more thing. Oh, CGOA, right? Crocheters Guild of America is having their conference, and it's their chain link conference, and it will be virtual this year, just as they did last year. A little more practice this year because, well, we're prepared for it this year. And it will be in July. And I already have it on my calendar, and it's going to be July 13th through the 17th. I already have it in my calendar, my handy dandy calendar. It's going to be the 13th to the 17th of July. Definitely get in that. That's going to be so much fun. Virtual merchants, virtual classes, and designs. And it's just going to be a really neat time. So I'm hoping that I get to see some of you there. That would be great. We are going to do it virtually, but I think they're going to have maybe Zooms. I'm not really sure. So don't quote me. Don't quote me. But maybe Zooms. And I may see about being a part of that. So if you've got the time and you definitely have the inclination if you're crocheting, check that out. I think that's going to be fun. So CGOA is definitely something that you want to do. And you know what? I will put that in the description below. I'll remember to do that. I should have thought of that earlier, but I didn't. But I will, because I want you guys to have that information, because that is just going to be so much fun, and meet other crocheters and just expand your skill sets and the world of what crochet is. So that's it for now. I hope you guys have a fabulous evening. Enjoy it. Be well, be safe. Love you all. And this is, if this is your first time here, this is all about crochet. We don't necessarily do tutorials here. We don't do tutorials here. I don't know why I said necessarily, but we do everything else. We do unboxings. We do interviews. We do all kinds of stuff. I hope you come back and join me, because I'd love to talk to you further about crocheting. And if you liked what you saw, please hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell so that you'll remember, or you'll be notified the next time that I upload a video. I do upload every today's Wednesday. Yeah, my memory is becoming a sieve. So every Wednesday at 6:30, I've been doing lives, and right now I think that's going to be the format. I've really been enjoying them. So I hope everybody's having a great day. Be well, be safe. Love you lots, and I will talk to you soon. This is Skipper Sandra signing off. Bye-bye.